All right, this is a live stream 36. I just wrapped up Artcasters with our guest this week. So as usual, it was with Scott Cirkland, and then Corey actually co-hosted as well. And then we had our guest Jim Lujan on there, and yeah, it was just a really cool conversation. He talked about um, sort of finding your core audience as an artist, which I think was a really cool conversation. Hung out and chatted for a little bit afterwards, and now I still need to finish the panel that I started on the last live stream, so that's what I'm going to do. But before I get into it, as usual, for anybody who's new to these streams, I'm usually working on book 2 for this, but I'm actually finishing up a test panel for a pitch. And so that's what I'm working on. I got most of the room like measured out and ruled out and drawn, and now I need to kind of work out all the shadows and stuff and kind of clarify the room a little more. But before I do that, I'll just talk about my comic, which is, and then Corey in the chats just said that was a fun episode. Anyhow, yeah, but so I, as usual, at the top, we'll just kind of talk about this comic that I have available on Amazon, which you can pre-order. Not pre-order, but you can order from Amazon. A little sleepy, but I got to power through and get work done. And basically, you can order this. It's a story about faith and mental illness that's hand-lettered, hand inked, and hand drawn by me. And it's 122 pages, and it's available on Amazon for like $14 right now, which is kind of cool because the list price is usually what is it? Usually $19.99. So anyhow, that being said, what I'm going to do now is work on my inks, like continue inking, and try to power through it and just kind of get through. Get this off my plate. That's my goal, so that I can get back to doing roughs for book 2, because I was making a lot of progress, but this has to get done. So that's what I'm going to be working on, and I'll probably talk about random things as they come across my mind. I can say I'm pretty tired, so I'm probably not going to like do an extremely late night tonight. I'm planning at the latest to like cap it at 2, and so we'll see how far I can get. But the nice thing is, I actually think I might make some decent progress on it. So that's what I'm going to try to do. Oh, and I need to change the banner from the banner that Corey tends to dislike, which is like monstrously huge because it's blocking half the view of the inks. So I'll change my banner real quick. And let's see here. We'll put this down there, and then we'll get rid of that banner real quick. Aha! I want to get rid of the bubble too, but whatever. We'll just kind of keep it as is. That's a little better. That way you can kind of see the inks as I'm doing them. Basically what I'm trying to do is block out the scene. And actually what I should do, probably, because like last time, oh, I love that. And then Frank was just saying turtle power. And I do kind of want to continue the Ninja Turtle conversation because I have a Ninja Turtle story. It's kind of like a humble brag, but it's like I can't help but love the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles because Peter Liard, who's the co-creator of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, was also the guy who funded the Zarek grant. And so my first like big opportunity in art came from one of the co-creators of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And so like I, to this day, will swear by how awesome Peter Liard is, because it was due to him that I even got like an opportunity in comics and stuff. And then Z Dread in the chats, welcome, joining from Twitch. Yeah, welcome to the stream. Thanks for the compliment. All right, so it's as usual. We got our night gang going. How you doing, Frank? Frank's in the chats. Zed is in the chats. Yes, Peter Liard. I always never pronounce his name correctly, but yeah, he basically was the founder of the Xeric grant, which I got back in like 2004 or something. But we were talking about Ninja Turtles, and I just thought that was kind of a neat little crossover. Yeah. So who knows? But yeah, I think like part of why they even started doing the Xeric thing was because they saw that there was like a real need for indie creators in comics to have support, like for their early comics, and they slightly like felt pretty fortunate for how well it worked out for them, and they kind of wanted to share the wealth a little bit. And I just think that's such a cool thing. Part of why they stopped was because of Kickstarter and like other like crowdsourcing funding sort of took over the reins and was able to kind of provide more for creators. And so I think that's why they ended up stopping. And then Adam's joining us too. Dude, Night Gang in full effect. How's it going, Adam? I hope the episode of Artcasters was kind of fun and enjoyable. I am gonna try to power through a little bit longer, and if I can, just finish this page. That's my hope, but you know, once again, that may not happen. But that's gonna be my goal tonight, is to like finish inking this page. Not this page, but just this panel, which is a test panel. So what are you working on, Frank? Adam doing studies tonight? Frank, I would assume working on mini comics. Let me know if I am wrong. Let's see here. So it was a weird day today, weather-wise, and I don't usually talk about the weather, but it was like when you live in California, it like barely rains. We barely get seasons, and so like when it does rain, because our freeways are so condensed and crazy, you end up with these drivers who like lose their minds. Like there's usually like a huge uptick in accidents because everybody's just kind of like, oh my gosh, it's rain, we have to freak out. So everybody like starts driving either like too slow or too fast on the freeways. And so that was a fascinating thing on the commute back from work, just kind of like trying to avoid like these cars that are like hydroplaning all over the freeway, and then, you know, sitting at like 5 miles an hour behind cars that like have never driven in rain before and think they have to drive like 1 mile an hour. And so that was an interesting kind of thing from today, where it was just like, oh my goodness, like too much driving today. But I will say there was something nice about the rain, because it's like when I was a kid, and it would like rain during recess or something, that was like the ultimate drawing time at school. So I always feel like whenever it's like kind of rainy, like misty day, it's like a day where I feel really good about working on art and comics. But other than that, it was just like a fairly decent day. Got a lot of art done at the day job, and had a really good conversation. It was nice to hang out with Jim. He's one of my favorite people, and so it's kind of neat to be able to hang out with like Jim, Corey, and Scott, who are all like people that are genuinely friends and they're good people. So nerdily enough, that is that was like an uptick from like a fairly tough week, you know. Let's see here. Okay, so Adam says he is working on Bridgman and Loomis anatomy studies. And then Frank said he's working on a template for Captain Goggles and Mask Woman bookmarks. Bookmarks are a smart idea for like a product. That's not a bad idea. I definitely, yeah, I like bookmarks. Plus, they're good giveaways for conventions and stuff because, like, people who are book nerds are rarely going to throw away a good bookmark. My kid and I, like, every night we have like book time for about a half an hour before he goes to bed. We read books, and yeah, like if we've gotten a free bookmark at like a library or something, it definitely gets its use during that time. So it's like that is anyhow rambling about bookmarks, but that's kind of awesome. Is all I'm saying. It's a good idea. Let's see here. I do think the inkwell is running dry here. But we'll have to see. This is a weird piece of art that I gotta knock out. But I am pretty happy with how it's come on. Let's see. It's funny though because like Adam, like being that you're in Seattle, you're probably like hearing about like me talk about rain like it's something. I do remember living in the Northwest. It was like it rained all the time. So if somebody was like, "It rained today. It was terrible," it was kind of like hard to hear because it's just like, yeah, that kind of just that's just life in the Northwest. Um, I don't know. Is it rainy up there? Like, I'm kind of curious. And then Adam just let Frank know that he's subscribed to Tarako Cast, which is Frank's show on YouTube, which I was a guest on for an episode. It was really a cool conversation about like mental health and comics. I thought it was a good one. Okay, let's see here. So, trying to kind of get this shadow business worked out. I need to check to make sure my ink is loaded on this. Yep, could tell it was empty. So I gotta refill it. Where did I put that? There we go. Gonna get a refill for this ink and make this happen. Adam pointed out that he's pretty far from Seattle, so it's not rainy. Yeah, that's true. I guess Walla Walla is pretty distant. I just was kind of like, I always assume it's like still sort of northwest though, so you know, I know like yeah, but I tend to make that mistake. I think I've done that with Texas as well, where I'll just kind of assume I have these cartoonish versions of other places that I haven't been. Is Walla Walla like up north? Like, is it further north? Like, are you on the like Canadian side or the California side? Um, like, which would you be closer to? Let's see here. It's kind of interesting too, because it's like I guess that would be equivalent to somebody kind of assuming like where I live, which is like Southern California, would be like the same as like, San Francisco or something. It's like there's kind of a difference in culture too between like Northern and SoCal. Um, but I kind of I have a tendency to make that kind of mistake. Oh, okay, so southeast. Got it. That's cool. Okay, so I've driven through Walla Walla probably. Um, that's interesting. That's cool. So are you guys like now I'm trying to place this like in my head. Yeah, yeah, I think that would make sense. So is it somewhat close to like Vancouver? Um, or am I like, is that me kind of showing my lack of location knowledge? I had a really good friend when I lived in Portland who lived in Vancouver, Washington, and like it was like a really short drive to like drop him off. Like he lived there, he didn't have a car, so to hang out, I just go like we'd go pick him up. Um, and it was like a 10-minute drive from Oregon. All right. Oh, Adam's not too far from Idaho. Got it. That's awesome. Let's see here. and, then, and then Frank was asking if it was close to Mexico. That would be awfully strange. I guess if like continental drift like kind of happened like and accelerated a lot, that might be a possibility, Frank. All right, powering through. I'm like literally at one of those points. Well, I just misused literally, but I'm at one of those points where I'm definitely tired. It's been a really long week too, um, and so I'm trying to kind of power through. But it is always like this mental battle when I'm doing these things like comics, just to like try to kind of stay focused, push a little further, see how far I can get. Okay, so Vancouver's on the. I got it. Okay, now I kind of think I get it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because I think, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So Adam, in my bad geolocation abilities, I think I've got a much better picture of where Walla Walla is situated in that state. I kind of regret, like when I lived in the Northwest, that I didn't visit Washington more thoroughly. I did do, I think we did like Olympia Fest or something. Like it was like a comic festival in Olympia, which was an interesting city. But I think that's pretty much the only time we really went up there. But I could imagine like, like Oregon was a lot like that too, where it's like there's big chunks of Oregon that are like absolutely nothing like Portland, like farm country and like different cities and different landscapes and stuff like that. So I think a lot of people, when they think Oregon, will think of like, maybe like Crater Lake or Portland, and then won't realize like there's a whole, state, which I guess makes sense. Like if somebody tells me they're from Illinois, I instantly think they're in Chicago. But I also I have no sense of direction for places I haven't lived. Which Frank has learned about me, because I think I did a similar thing with Texas, where we kind of played a guessing game to try to kind of resituate and figure out where everything is in Texas. Let's see here. So needless to say, like I don't think geography is like my strongest suit. Okay. We're getting there. Kind of not sure about this chair. Like I want to add a little bit more. Kind of detail to the chair. I also need to let the ink flow a little more on this. Yeah, that was a really dry brush toward the end there. Glad I caught that. Let's see. Corey was saying he drove to Walla Walla on a biker trip. It's pretty awesome. I remember, like, I had known Corey for a little bit before I found out that he's like, rides a motorcycle. And it's like, it's just like, it's kind of a neat little thing about Corey, I think, is like the fact that he's a badass biker as well. We've gotten in conversations about that. I tend to be like very risk averse when it comes to things like that. For me, I think I just instantly do the math of like, especially in California, where it's like, if you drive like here, you're gonna get in an accident, and it's inevitably gonna happen, and probably be like a fender bender. But like a motorcycle, it's like it's not gonna be a fender bender, like because a fender bender on a bike, like you're gonna have some injuries, So it might also just be that might be like an LA thing, the aversion to riding a motorcycle. but it might just be my like insane aversion to risk. That would be fun though. Did you do PCH? Corey was saying he did Spokane to Portland on the first day, then down the coast of California. Because that like drive on PCH, like if you do the whole stretch of the coast, it's so pretty. And if you are gonna ride a motorcycle, like that seems like the proper way to do it. Don't ride small, quiet bikes. I guess that's the hint from Corey. I don't know, man. I don't think I could do it. I also like being warm when I'm driving. Like, I don't know, there's just a bunch of stuff, but it is probably one of those things where I think if I tried it, maybe it would be really addictive and thrilling. Because I definitely can relate to like like just driving in a car with like the windows rolled down and listening to music is really a cool feeling. So I could imagine like that's got to be pretty awesome. Let's see, and he said, "I'm louder than your stereo." That is true. Oh my goodness. Frank was giving a plug for Tarako Creative Cast, which is apparently on new nights on Monday at 9 p.m. And I would definitely recommend it. It's fun. Let's see here. The tough thing, and this is what I'm gauging, and this might be helpful to like people who are like working on creative stuff, but like anytime I'm doing a late night like this where I'm pushing it a little bit, and like what I'm juggling is can I still do like confident lines that aren't gonna like botch or ruin this thing? Because if I find that I'm like starting to do like sloppy work, that's a real good sign that I need to like call it. Um, so that's like a good gauge, weirdly enough. I guess I'm just stating the obvious tonight, but I do find that that's very helpful for me to like try to kind of monitor like, am I gonna start doing like super sloppy ink work? Because if that's the case, then you're doing more damage than good, right? So you probably want to call it. But if I can power through and kind of get more done and not have to worry about this tomorrow, that would be good. Corey probably relates to this, but it's like when you're working on a personal project, even like side projects that aren't your personal projects can start feeling like impediments to the main thing. And so like I'm enjoying this, but I'm like, I really want to get back to those thumbnails, you know? Because like that book needs to get done. So it's a weird thing because it's like this is a good thing and it's equally a creative project that I'm very into. But at the same time, I'm like, I really want to get back to my book. Although I love inking, so it is like a nice break too, I guess. That's how I kind of need to view it. Like this is a friendly break to go back to inking for a little bit. Oh, I don't know. Frank, don't be done shilling. I like shilling. But he was pointing out they changed the date and time because it was getting harder to stream on Wednesday nights. Yeah, understandable. It is very difficult to not know where I am on the road because I'm louder than your stereo, Corey said. Yeah, but I mean, okay, so question, Corey, if you're still in the chats. Like, do you feel comfortable, do you feel as comfortable, like, riding your motorcycle in California as you would in, like, Idaho? Like, if you're riding on, like, the 405 or, like, the 14 or the 5. Which, by the way, is, like, that's one of those ones I didn't even know was, like, a California thing till I lived in Oregon. And I realized, like, you know, we're probably the only state that actually just calls it the 5. Most people just say, hey, get off on 5 freeway, which to me just seems really strange because, yeah, it's the 5, it's the 14, it's the 710. Yeah. All right. I also want to hear about Walla Walla. Like, I'm curious what the atmosphere is like. Is it a small city? Is it a big city? Is it sort of rural or is it like suburban? All right, so here we go. Knocking out this chair. Okay. We're getting there. Like, I definitely want to establish that the light source is very clearly like from the table. And kind of pull the eye from like all this distraction. So it's going to be a lot of subtle stuff, like very like it's actually strangely enough like a well-lit room is a little easier to kind of establish points of focus, at least for me. And like a completely dark room is good for establishing points of focus, but it can be compositionally really boring. So I'm trying to do this kind of dimly lit room that'll have enough visual interest to kind of pull people in and establish the scene, but not so much that it starts detracting from the main focus of the page. Wine and sweet onions are big here. Okay, see, that sounds pretty good. And then Adam was saying Walla Walla was once called the nicest town in America, which is cool. All right, Mama Soto. I was going to say it was almost not the Night Gang, and now it is officially the Night Gang. How you doing, Mama Soto? You're joining us just as we did an episode of Artcasters, and then I am doing kind of like an after party now where I'm trying to Trying to knock out this page. Oh, going to bed, and thought you'd say hi. Well, you're still in the night, gang, Mama Soto. So thank you for stopping by. And sleep well. I probably will be doing the same in about an hour, I would guess. Although if I can power through and see this page to finish, that would make me very happy. And I keep saying this page, but I just mean this panel. So we're getting through it. How are your studies coming along, Adam? You having good luck? Let's see here. So I haven't had like a ton of days like this because I'm kind of a curmudgeon. Like I work from home a lot. I tend to be a person who doesn't like travel a ton. Like I don't mind travel. I enjoy it, but I don't like go out of my way to like book vacations to other destinations or something like that. Like for me, like a good time off has always been like working on art and a little bit isolated. But I definitely had something this week. I mean, like, I don't know. There is a part of me today, especially where like the whole pandemic and just like, you know, like, I don't know, I just kind of like wanted to, like, I felt a little cooped up today. Um, like, which is an interesting thing because it's like, if you're like a person who's used to kind of having a lot of time to yourself being creative, it's been interesting kind of balancing that. But yeah, it was one of those days where I was just like starting to realize like I think collectively as a society, like people are probably feeling pretty pent up and like tired of the whole just being at home thing. If like a nerdy cartoonist is starting to feel it, it's like that's got to be like affecting people pretty heavily. All right, Adam said his Night Gang digital badges would be awesome. And then Adam said studies are going all right. And then Mama Soto was saying, yeah, I went for a drive the other day, just needing open space from the four walls day in and day out, right? Yeah, it's a weird one where it's like I think it's just testing people's patience, but it also is like one of those things that it's like I'm not gonna just disappear just because I get tired of it. Um, but yeah, a drive may not be a bad call. I might have to do that this weekend or something just to like change things up and have like a little moment of of some kind of like activity other than the repetitive thing, which is funny because I'm a guy, I like repetitive activity. And generally, I've not felt this through most of the time. So it's been fascinating kind of having that. All right, so here we go. I want to have it kind of get a little more kind of structured here. And then the back of this chair, much more dark. So one thing that's awesome about having a 7-year-old is like when I got home from work today, we had a epic battle of Transformers, and it was like this whole just crazy plot line. Like I had one. Let's see here. So I had like a Decepticon. He was, well, one of the Autobots was walking around and telling the other Autobots, like, I'm definitely an Autobot. I am not a spy. I'm definitely not a Decepticon. Trying to pretend to be an Autobot, like, so I can spy for like Megatron. It was like it was the funnest game, and I think my son very quickly figured out that the guy saying he wasn't a spy was a spy. And then there were some pretty epic battles. So that's one thing that's pretty fun about a 7-year-old is you get to kind of have an excuse to like get in a big Transformers battle. And so that was cool. I had a crazy Transformers battle today. Let's see here. So the imagination and like the playing and stuff is really fun. That was definitely a highlight today. I want to have a little more differentiation there. Okay. I also need to tone this back. So this is coming along. Whew. Mama Soto said, spring break is here, so party time. Yeah, that's going to be interesting to navigate as well. But it might not be bad to have a little, I don't know. I like the drive idea. That might be good. I think I'll do that. Okay, so here we go. And I got to get my coffee refilled. I'm starting to feel it. Okay, so we're getting there, though. This page is coming along. It's a strange, crazy scene. Not a very complicated scene, but it's going to get done. So, all right. Get some warm coffee real quick. Let's see here. second. All right. So we got inky business going on. This is one of the things. Thank you, Adam. That's cool. I hope so. I hope it's gonna get there. It's a long process, so I appreciate that. That's encouraging. One of the fun things about kind of doing this with live streams is also that, where it's like if I'm making a misstep, someone could tell me. They could be like, "This is looking terrible." All right, so we're gonna do some. This is all the fun stuff. So now I want to kind of go to like some of these areas that need a little more differentiation. But I definitely want to, like, part of what needed to be fixed on that panel was just like a little more clarity on the walls and stuff. So we're kind of getting there. A lot of hatching, but just a little more subtle, the differentiations of the parts of the room that get dark and the parts that don't. Have a good night, Mama Soto. Thank you for saying that looks awesome. And I'm sure we'll catch you another night. Thanks for stopping by to say hi. I hope everything goes well in your neck of the woods in Texas. And yeah, sleep well. Have good dreams. I think that this might be possible to get wrapped tonight. We'll see. So here's where I remember I used to do cross hatching at like a 90-degree angle. And I couldn't, for the life of me, figure out why. Coming alongside and just showing me like you do it at like a 45, which helped a lot. I know it's weird, but there's like a specific angle that hatch marks kind of work, and then there's an angle they don't. And if you can get that like 45 going, you get like a pretty good smooth transition. Starts looking a little wonky if it starts going to 90, unless you're drawing like a burlap bag or something. So that is something I keep in mind when I'm hatching. And here might still be too much focus, but I'm going to check it out once I'm clear of all this business here. Oh, yeah, that's reading. What a weird coincidence that actually worked. Yeah, that reads a lot better than the previous wall. Okay. I might have to wash my hands again though, shortly, because they are getting pretty inky. One thing I love though, it's weird because it's like, I do like the feeling of when you ink by hand, there is like this cool feeling to like, this is just going to be all black, so I can definitely keep the line on there. When you ink by hand, there's a feeling of being like a warrior when you're done, because often I'll have like ink on my face because I touched my face with this like weird inky hand, um, and I'll have like ink all over my fingers, and it's like it's kind of a good feeling. Like it feels like you got work done. Whereas like working digitally, it's like you have like clean hands at the end, and it just doesn't feel quite as satisfying as like this feels satisfying, weirdly enough. And to a lot of people, that might not be the way they feel about it. Like it might be nice to not have to worry about like cleanup or anything like that. And I definitely can understand that, like especially with like painting. I mean, like I love oil painting, but I haven't done it in a long time because just the setup and the takedown alone is like it's hardly worth it. Um, Now, if I were like frequently painting and showing in galleries or something, it's like I love that Frank was like ink warrior. You know, we could call ourselves the ink warriors of the night game. That's possible. But I'm just saying, like, that's one of the cool things about working physically is like um, you actually end up with like I don't know, like war wounds. um, I don't know, it just feels fun. So we're getting a little further here, and I'm trying to see this page through. The nice thing is with inking, like the more you get inked, the more you feel encouraged to like finish it because it starts kind of coming into place. And it requires a lot of patience, but it's like when you start actually seeing it all sort of come together, it can be really thrilling too. Strangely addictive, kind of like a video game where you, the further you get to like on a level, you start feeling more and more kind of okay with playing for a little longer. Partially why I avoid video games like the plague most of the time, because if I get really into a video game, I'll want to play it until I beat it. Um, and so, like, that can just suck up so much time that I could be creating. But I know myself too well to like allow myself to just zone out and play video games. Because I think there's a lot of people, and this kind of baffles me, but I think there are a lot of people who do what I do, like for a living, and then they get home and that's it. Like they just kind of kick back and watch a movie or um, hang out, and it's like, um, you know, and then they go to work and clock in and so on. But like to me, that would drive me nuts if that's all I was doing. Maybe it could potentially be that I'm just like a workaholic, but I definitely like I just feel better. I think cartoonists tend to feel better when we're actually um, obsessively working. Although it is weird because it's like you have to monitor it a little bit as a human, um, you know, to avoid like total burnout. You know, but anyhow, my point is, I don't know if I could do the like work somewhere, save up vacation time, like, and just work somewhere, and that's it. Like, I don't know if that would fulfill me. But there are times sometimes where I'm like, Kind of sounds relaxing too. I just can't do it though. All right. Let's see. A little further. It's like one little segment at a time. I don't like how this chair looks. I think it needs to be a little more delineated. And then back here should be a little further in shadow too. Yep. A little bit better now. Okay, so let's get a little further. Might switch up the sides or maybe go back to like under the chairs where it's a little more interesting than some of this stuff that just needs a little bit of dimming. Okay. Again, one of these can go black. And we're just kind of establishing some of the light, laying out kind of grays. And I don't want like too much focus to go on this corner either. All right. Whew. It's kind of equivalent to like doing a marathon run. And I'm sure this is cliche, but it's like, I think to do a marathon like effectively or do any running, you kind of almost have to forget about like the finish line and just kind of think, um, like just challenge yourself like, okay, so I got to the end of the street. Now I'm going to get to the end of this spot. I wonder if I can push to get to this spot. And you just kind of keep pushing it until before you know it, you're kind of at the finish line. Now, very similar to like a marathon, like there are limits to like what you're going to be able to do, but it's like for me, So I'm like, okay, maybe I can get this block done, you know? And then we'll see how far we can go. Because we might be able to go further than I personally feel right now. Because honestly, I'm pretty exhausted, but I also know I'm not going to be able to get back to book 2 until this thing is done. So I definitely also am not going to do myself any favors if I super rush this thing, because that negates the whole purpose of kind of doing it well. Um, but I do think that's working. So we'll keep going. So these little micro targets and micro goals, I think, can be useful. All right. Breaking tasks up into smaller tasks is incredibly difficult for me. Yeah, it's kind of like an exercise, I find, because it's I think it's hard for I think it's hard to do too. Um, but it's kind of like just the gamifying thing, where it's like you just got to gamify it. Um, think of it like a save point in a game, where you're like, I just have to get to this save point, and then I can, break. Like here, maybe I'll reward myself when I finish this whole section. It's like a very brief break where I can get some water or something. So I'll do stuff like that. Like if I want to, like right now, maybe I want some water. I don't know if that's what I want right now because I'm actually digging coffee. But the point being, if my coffee runs out, I'm like, I need to refill my cup of coffee. Then what can I attach to that to kind of push my productivity further? So it's like, well, I mean, I can force myself to finish this before I do that. And then it kind of makes it a little game. And then it gives me a little goal, like a miniature goal to work towards. It's like, okay, so I really want that coffee, right? Um, so it's like a self reward system. I don't know. It's just kind of something I've developed that helps me kind of get through a page, because comics are a lot of work, And they can be daunting, and sometimes it's tempting to just gun it and rush a page, or make a call that's not going to be the best for it. And there's speed that you definitely need, um, but then there's also just patience. Like a lot of it's just like a weird patience game. But yeah, for me that helps. But I can understand if that doesn't work for someone else. I also get that. But I do think it's something you can kind of train a little bit. Um, So it's kind of for my exercise, I usually do rowing, like on a rowing machine. And rowing's weird because at first it seems really light and easy, but then it's like when you're like, like midway through a mile, it starts like really feeling exhausting and so on. Like it kind of builds, and then eventually you start feeling pretty overwhelmed. So like with rowing, I'll gamify that too, where I'll be like, okay, I'm going to get a quarter of a mile. Okay, let's see if I can get half a mile. Okay, let's see. I break it into like little objectives because the second I can beat like half a mile, it's not that hard to get to the other half. But if I like think of the whole mile, it's gonna, you know, it's gonna like feel really daunting and impossible. I don't know if that makes sense. May not be helpful either. I don't know. Okay, so this is kind of sloppy. I'm not liking the ink work here, but I think it's just because it needs to be toned back. So it might be a matter of like toning back the room. I just don't think there would be that much light in that spot. Okay, let's try that. Yep, much better. Okay, we're getting there. Getting inky. Yeah, I love the inky stuff. Inking's fun, but it's also like, depending on how you're doing it, but it's like, it can be a lot of work. All right, here we go. But I do find like that, now it's a little less daunting, right? Like I have a little section, just have to do the rest. All right. And I do think I might switch it up a little bit. I do want to do some easy stuff real quick. This is just an easy reward. Where it's like I know this is going to be a solid black. So maybe I'll tackle that. Just have a quick win. Okay, maybe I'll switch it up a little bit, switch spots that I'm working on just to keep it interested. So I'm going to get some of this shadow area. All right, let's get this going. Trying to think of a way to make this interesting. or keep this interesting, I should say. I don't like that angle. I need to go from this angle. There we go. There we go. That's a good one. So just blocking this shadow area. So that's kind of a funner or a more fun spot to kind of hit real quick. And that result will feel a little better because it's going to show a little more development. Whew. Getting there. Ooh, I love this. I try to use my impatience as a way to just try to get a ton of stuff done in a shorter period of time. But like, for example, it would be hard for me to do a comic one panel at a time. Yeah, I get that. Like, I tend to have like a thing about finishing. That's why, like I said, even with like that's why I avoid video games, right? Because I'll just play a video game for like 20 hours, you know. I definitely have that. I think like one thing that definitely helped, because I used to do like just I would power through a page and just kind of sit there for like you know uh, 8 or 9 hour session, just finishing a page, just seeing it fully done. But it's like, um, and this isn't an excuse or anything. It's just like with my son, it's really hard for me to find a window of time to do like 8 hours. So for me, like breaking it into chunks is like it's just a way to do it. Like um, where I just wouldn't have the like 8 hours or 9 hours or whatever long amount of time to just sit straight till it's finished. So that's why like I kind of have the technique I do of like taking a panel at a time, or in the case of like the thumbnails, like page at a time. But I do try to give it like a completion point of some sort, you know. Um, but yeah, this particular panel happens to just be taking a long time. They don't always take this amount of time. But I think to do this right, it needs to have some of that time invested in it. The only downside of the method I'm using, because it's so incremental, is like if you misstep, it really sucks. Like, because if I misstep, it's like I've lost like a lot of time. Yeah. That's one of the reasons I couldn't do the long sprint stuff, because yeah, it's just the sprint and stop and sprint and stop, like that doesn't work for me very well because I burn out very quickly. For me, it's like I have to take these like incremental steps, but I get that too. I understand that because I actually can work that way, and I think prior to like being an art director, that was how I worked on comics. Was like because I was freelancing, and then like so I'd work like a whole week like on client work, then I'd have like a week to just zone out, get my comics knocked out, and I would just dedicate like 8-9 hours a day to like working on comics, and then back to freelance for like 2 more weeks, and then 8 or 9 hours a day. I think there's benefits to both. I think people can get used to like the little baby steps stuff, and won't be able to power through like a long session. And that can be a problem. And then I think sometimes like the long sessions can feel like you're getting a lot accomplished. And in reality, like it's like 1 or 2 long sessions. So it's like, I don't know, I think each has its own benefits, but I get the obsession thing. I definitely understand that. Because it's like I think I'm wired a little similarly. That's why, like, it's funny because I think for some people, like, the method of making little stopping points is like a natural thing, but for me, it's like it took me a while to kind of condition myself to it. I almost have to like, I don't know, learn. I think each person has to learn their own uh, working style, and kind of figure out like what gets them closer to their goal. It sounds awesome. I do have that a little bit, Adam, what you're talking about though, because for me, like right now, um, like I want to do a little bit of music for fun, but it's like I almost can't open that door right now because if I were to like track a guitar thing or something right now, I would just go down that rabbit hole and probably drop what I'm doing, you know. Um, so it's like, um, yeah, I get that. I kind of get that too, where I'll get in a zone where it's like um, I have to kind of finish. Although today, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Because I am kind of hoping to wrap up by 2. And so that gives me about 20 more minutes. So it's likely that I won't finish this page tonight, but I'm hoping that maybe I can. Who knows? Whew. I do feel like getting it all rolled out and stuff though was fairly good. It's also hard to like sort of be okay with leaving something unfinished for a second. Like that is a really hard habit to build to, um, because the temptation is like power through and finish. Um, but where I'm going to gauge it is if I start doing more harm than good. Like if I start doing more harm than good on this page, that's where I'll call it. Okay. Let's see here. But I think it's interesting. It's like to me, it's really fascinating and cool how creatives all have their own kind of different ways of doing things, different strategies, and different ways of breaking up tasks or not breaking them up. You know, I just think that's really fascinating. Yeah, so Adam was just saying he relates because last year he kind of had that with music. Yeah, I'm the same way where it's like um, once again, that's why I don't tend to own like a video game system, and if I do, I try to really regulate my time if I'm gonna like play a game or something because it's like if I get in game mode, I'm gonna be like hardcore in game mode. Um, it's hard to do something kind of halfway. That was actually like one of the biggest reasons I ended up working in house anyway. It was like I just found that like when I was freelancing, I was just constantly freelancing. Like I couldn't clock out. Um, and so I found less and less time for my own personal projects and comic projects and stuff. Whereas like with a schedule, like a work schedule, it allows me to develop habits. So it's like, okay, at least now, most of the time, around 9 o'clock, I know I can get in some comic time pretty consistently, almost daily. And I wouldn't have been able to guarantee that when I was freelancing because when I was freelancing, quite often, you know, you have like some pretty crazy deadlines, and so 9 o'clock for like a week, I might not be able to touch my comic, because I gotta take whatever thing and get it in on time. There's less of a consistency with the schedule. It doesn't have to be that way. It's just like for me, the way I'm wired, um, it wound up being that way. So let's see here. All right. Yeah, I understand the hibernation thing too. I also, because of that, what you're describing with that, I mean, we're all different, but um, I have a similar tendency where if I'll like hibernate, but those periods of time can be really bad. So I actually have to monitor my time off as well and be like, okay, I can have this night off or whatever, you know. But most of the time, it's like I gotta be on it because if I'm off of it, I'll be off of it for a really long time. Um, so that's why I try to kind of maintain some consistency just for myself, so that I can try to make sure I make some progress. You know. All right, so we're getting there. And I think I'm getting to that point because it's about 2 in the morning, and I could just tell. um, it's just one of those nights where I'm probably not going to be able to get it done, which is unfortunate. But it's like I'm literally doing the math on like surviving tomorrow, um, and being able to come back reinvigorated and just knock this thing out tomorrow. It is kind of weird though. Like this page is taking a lot longer than I was expecting to execute just a single thing. All right, so let's see this. How's that looking? Okay, I need to clarify that a little bit before I call it. I want to clarify this differentiation here between the figure in the foreground and the background. I'm going to do the same here. Same here a little bit. But I think that's kind of working out for like the room. Let's see. I think that's working. Okay, let me see a few more minutes. But I do think I might have to wrap the stream tonight, guys. So, oh, I'm gonna finish this though. But I probably will be wrapping the stream. So let me do that because I'm starting to sense the desire to just kind of burn through it, rush, and I don't want to do that when I probably won't get a good result. So thanks you guys for hanging out. Let's see what I got done. So far I've got that, and it's kind of working out. So I think it's going to work. I appreciate you guys hanging out and chilling with me while I'm working on art. And actually, I think you guys both were hanging out on the Artcasters with me too. So thanks again. It's fun. I love the night gang, and I'm hoping if I call it tonight, I'm gonna have like a much more productive night gang day tomorrow. So I will see you guys hopefully again, and thanks for hanging in there and hanging out with me and getting art done. Night gang going tough. So I hope to see you guys later tonight, and have a good night.